Okay, so today we're going to look at the FG-1D Corsair. That's from Milviz. We're at Wake Island, and the plan is there's obviously not much at Wake Island. We're going to do a cold start, take off, do some acrobatics, land on a carrier, which is the USS Lexington. We'll do the restrained, or the landing on the carrier using the cables, which we have to use another app for to make that work, but I'll show you that when we do it. And then we're going to reset, try and blow the engine, because they've done some work where you can actually overcook the engine, blow it, and you get some nice effects with lots of oil splatter coming out the engine. And then we'll try and make an emergency landing back at Wake Island and wreck the aircraft, but hopefully survive it. That's the plan. So external model wise, it's very nice. I'd say it's one of the few that's on par with the Flying Irons. Obviously Flying Irons are my favourite warbirds, but this is quite close in how detailed it is. They've done quite a decent job. If you zoom right in on all the little bits, they've obviously put a lot of effort into it. The one thing I don't like, probably about the only thing I don't like about it actually, is the takeoff, which I'm sure is very accurate, but it's an absolute nightmare to take off. It's so difficult, just skips all over the place. And the great thing about the Flying Irons is they give you a simplified ground handling option, whereas you don't get that with this one. So the takeoff, certainly my takeoffs anyway, are messy. Landing's not too bad, but the takeoffs are awful. But you'll see that in a few minutes when we do it. So the only difference between the one I've got here, because I got this from the Microsoft the marketplace, the install marketplace. If you buy it direct from the developer, the only difference is the guns. So they don't work, but they visualize on the one you can buy from the developer. So you pull the trigger and you'll get some flames come out the wings, and you can hear that pop, 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 pop. Doesn't do any damage to anything, you can't destroy any targets or anything like that, but you just get that extra visual, which Microsoft refused to put on there, which is quite frustrating, and it's why it's a good argument for buying it direct from the developers rather than Microsoft. The only reason I do get them from the store is because it's so much simpler, and they transfer across to 2024 a lot easier. But yeah, we've got visual weapons. We've got the rockets on the wings. We've got the bombs on the undercarriage. I'll show you how to change them in a minute. I quite like it clean winged actually when it's got nothing on it. But we'll show you that as well when we do the emergency landing. We'll have it clean wing. So let's get inside and have a look at the. In fact, before we go inside, I'll show you some of the detailing up close, and then we'll jump in. So looking at it up close, you can see you got the moisture on the props. Those huge, great props. Look direct into the engine. Very nicely modelled, very tidy. But here's where it really excels. If you look at the wings, all this gubbins here. Put a lot of effort into that. Looks good. Even from the outside, the cockpit looks nice. Lose a bit of texture on the rockets, not horrendously so. All in all, I mean, it's expensive. This isn't one of the cheap ones, so you'd expect it to be good, to be fair. But yeah, it's not too bad. Not too bad at all. Right, let's jump inside. Okay, so on the inside, again, it's quite nice, quite tidy. Let's lean into these gauges for you. It's a relatively simple cockpit for a warbird. Some of it, I always find it's a big mixture with the warbirds. Some of them are super complicated. and then others are quite simple. Wondered why my yoke was sitting over to the right there. So yeah, that's the cockpit. If I just show you the layout, basically you've got the gauges to the front. All these are your weapon controls. Gun safeties on the left, flaps, droppable tank behind it. Magnetos there. Landing gear control, throttle mixture and supercharger, your trim controls, fuel controls. Locking wheel, this controls your flaps. Obviously got lights here and here. Here's your main switches for things like your battery, your fuel pump, turn the radio on, instruments, all that sort of stuff. Your engine flaps, so like cowl flaps, oil flaps, intercooler flaps are all here. Radio controls, lighting controls. Tail hook, which we will use a little bit later on. I think this is oxygen at the back. Not too sure, but I'm pretty sure that's the oxygen at the back there. Your friend or foe system. That's part of your radio. And that's about it really. That's all the main things you need. So that's the cockpit. I like where the cockpit sits. I like the fact that you can see the flaps. There's your flaps here, so you don't need the little flap indicators. You can tell what level your flaps are at. I like that. It has got a massive nose. If I look out the window, huge, great nose, and that led to when they used to land on the carrier, they would come in at an angle rather than straight in. We probably won't do that today. I haven't got the skill level for that, I don't think. But it enabled them to keep eyes on the carrier. If you imagine the carrier was here, they could keep an eye on it till the last second, rather than if it was out here in front and then you literally can't see anything. So it made for better landings. Right, let's go ahead and give it a cold start. Okay, so first thing we're going to do, it's a little bit out of sequence, but we're going to drop the wings, just because I like to have them dropped. I don't like having them up like this. I feel like they're a little bit in the way, so we need to put, they're basically controlled by hydraulic pressure, which is this gauge here, I believe. To increase the pressure, there's a little handle down here, and we just give this a pump. A couple more. There you go, you see that gauge is about halfway. So we'll now unlock the wings. Let them fold down. Check they're both down, check. And then lock them back in place. So that's the wings down and folded and locked. Okay, so pre-flight checks. We're going to check that our parking brake is applied. Pedals should be forward, and if we flick to the outside, you see the chocks are in place. We'll check our flaps are up, so we can visually check them. There's the handle, should be all the way up. There are loads of different flap positions, it's quite a lot. Both flaps confirmed up. Should you look over and they drop, but you can't control them through here, just check your hydraulic pressure. See, ours is dripping down because we haven't got the engine started and I've been gas bagging. It's better. Pump some hydraulic pressure in and the flaps will work again. So I've come across that a couple of times. So quick check of the gauges. We're looking for any damage, any spikes. Nope, all good. So we can uncage our gyro and we can reset our altimeter. All the weapons gauges are off. Yes, yes, yes. And guns are on safe. These two here. Mags closed. Gear levers shown as down, and we've got the 3 pins confirming they're down. Incidentally, if you have this pulled up, as soon as you start the engine, it will put pressure onto the gear and you will just collapse, which I have done. It's rather embarrassing. Fuel is off. Throttle and mixture are both in the cut cut off idle position. I found the mixture often starts up here and fully rich, so just make sure that's cut off at the start. All fuses are in. Trims are set to 0. This one, this one, this one. Tail wheel is unlocked, ready for taxi. Wings are spread and locked. And then over on the right hand side, all the switches are shown as off, including the start switch, which is covered. And all the lights are off. We won't be using them today. The remainder of the fuses are in, so we're ready to start. So we need to spin the prop twice. You do that just by clicking on it, and that's just to move oil around the engine so it's not pulled. It says in the manual to do it twice, so there we go. And while it's coming around its last time, switch the fuel to the reserve tank, which is straight ahead, and we'll be switching it to main, which is to the left once we get airborne. Move the mags through to both. Direct air closed. Keep the mixture fully cut off and move the throttle to the 1-inch position, which is where this red mark is, in line with that. Can leave the supercharger in neutral because we won't be using it at all. And then come across to the right and we'll turn on our battery and instruments. See, we've got volts, so we are running off the battery. Next one we check is the fuel. We have got fuel, and the temperature gauge has come to life. Next we're going to turn on the electronic auxiliary fuel pump, which is this one in red, and you'll hear that straight away. And then we're going to prime it, and that's the next switch along. Manual says 8 to 10 seconds. There you go. I can't talk and count at the same time in my head. Switch that back to off, uncover the start switch, and then we're going to feed in the mixture as we start it. So on the start feeding in the mixture. It should catch. There it is, that's caught. You can hear the difference in the engine when it catches. Mixture up to fully rich. Gently, slowly bring the RPM down to 10,000. And check the manifold pressure is nice and low, sort of between 10 and 15, which is perfect. So we can now recage the starter and turn off the electronic auxiliary fuel pump. Okay, so we are ready for taxi. We'll just turn the gun sight on. Gives you a good idea if you're sat in the right place. I'm obviously a little bit low, a little bit far back. There we go. So the gun sight projects from here onto this plexiglass in front of you. It's just this switch on the end, up and all the way across to the brightness. So we'll taxi with the canopy open. Prior to taxi, let's sort out our engine flaps. So we want the cowl flaps fully open. We want the oil cooler flaps closed. They're not going to let us. And the intercooler flaps open. We found these. See that just popped back. These are slightly automated in that sometimes it doesn't like the position you put it in, and it will. There you go. It will manually move it or automatically move it. Which is not the end of the world. I don't know whether that's just the sim or whether it accurately did that or not. Couldn't tell you. Okay, so we are ready for taxi. Parking brake off. Very gently increase the throttle. Doesn't take much at all in the Corsair. It's a very, very powerful engine. Don't need any lights today. It's nice and bright and there's going to be nothing else in the air. Just like all the other warbirds, it's a bit of a nightmare to taxi because of the massive engines sticking out in front of you. Okay, holding on the knocked my view there. There we go, it's better. Right, check the runway's clear. Yep, runway is clear. We'll just do a quick run up. So parking brakes applied. Check temperatures. We're looking for more than 232 degrees on the cylinder temperature, which it is. Lovely. If I come down a little bit, we're looking for an oil temperature of less than 40. Sorry, more than 40, which it is. No concerns with anything else. Yep, everything else looks good. So with the parking brake applied, we'll just run up the engine. Nice and steady. Hold about 40 on the manifold pressure. Just under 25,000 RPM, that's perfect. So we'll let that come back down again. So we'll be flying, we'll try and get the manifold pressure below 40. Which is why we'll run up to that now. Okay, so parking brake off. Quick check of the runway. It's clear, roll into position. And then just on the foot brakes, we will lock the tail wheel, and then we need to adjust the trim. So we need to adjust it to about 6 degrees right for takeoff. On both. So that's these two gauges here, and then about 1 degree nose up. There we go. That's the elevator tab there. So we are flaps as well. We'll give ourselves 2 notches of flaps just to try and shorten our takeoff distance. That's us ready for takeoff. One last thing we must do actually is cowl flaps we can leave as they are while they're on the ground. Cooler flaps open, intercooler flaps closed. Okay, so parking brake off. Gently forward through the throttle. I apologise in advance. My takeoffs in the Corsair are horrible. Ah, there we go, look, pulling right. Come on. And we're airborne. So, tap the brake. Bring the gear up. flaps up. Confirm flaps are up. Close the canopy. Canopy closed and locked. Keep it steady on the climb. We'll stay steady until we get 1,000 feet, and you'll see that'll turn yellow on the altitude warning. It's a quick way of gauging your altitude. There you go, clicked over to yellow. So we can close up the cowl flaps. See them closing at the front. Quick check of all the gauges. We can bring the manifold pressure, bring the throttle back now. Get the manifold pressure to below 40. Now we're in the cruise. Yep, that's good there. Bring the mixture back to auto rich. There we go. Confirm gear is up. Yes, gear is up. And everything looks good. So we'll start our left turn towards the carrier to start with. Get an eyeball on the carrier, where is it? There it is, USS Lexington. There we go. I apologise for that takeoff. I apologise for all the takeoffs in this. It is a nightmare to take off in. So we can switch our fuel over to the main tank now. What we do need to do is reset our trim as well, which is a pain. Because I can guarantee you I'm terrible at trying to do two things at once. There we go. Trim reset. Okay, how far have we drifted? I overshot the carrier a bit now, so we'll start a turn in. Keeping that manifold pressure below 40. Ah, there he is. So my only real gripe with the Corsair is that takeoff. It is horrible, and I appreciate that probably is very, very accurate. But when you're playing a sim, it's a real ball ache. Okay, so we just reduce our throttle a bit because we're coming in quite hot. We're coming in at 250 miles per hour, or sorry, 250 knots. Try and get nice and low across the deck. Still going to be quite a fast flyby. And then back on the throttle now. Give them a nice barrel roll as we move away. And then gently bring the throttle back. Okay, so we'll bring her back in a left turn towards the airfield. Start to drop altitude. Making sure we keep our manifold pressure between 30 and 40, certainly below 40. That's one other thing I don't like about this plane, and that is not a problem with the sim, that's the actual design. If you look up, where is it? You've got this big piece of metal, if I look from the outside, above the head there, which I'm sure was to protect the pilot, but it's bloody annoying when you're trying to do manoeuvres and look up. All you can see is this big sheet of metal. Okay, so we'll go across the centre of between the runway and the taxiway. Nice and low, and we'll just do an aileron roll. So it's such a powerful plane, this. Which makes doing things like this so easy. And you'll see when we do the loop as well in a minute. Handles a loop probably better than any of them, I reckon, actually. Okay, so line up with the middle, below 1,000. We're at 500 feet now, so we can lose a little bit more, but not too much. Terrify the ground crew. Push the throttle. Give her a roll. I'm on the other way. And we're going to push it. We're going to go straight into a loop. This is a very, very low altitude to start a loop from. Head over the top, looking for that linear feature. There it is. We've drifted a little bit. We'll roll it there. Reduce the throttle. And throttle back on. Looking for our linear feature. There it is. Roll her back round. Back off the throttle, let the speed come up naturally as we descend. There you go, very low, very, very low, Cuban 8. So, manifold pressure back below 40. What we got on speed? Just below 300 knots, so looking good on speed. So we'll turn back in towards the airfield. See how she does on a high G turn. No problems. See it juddering as we push it right to the edge. That really does turn nicely. It's killing a lot of the airspeed though. Down to 160, so we'll make this our last one. Go. Let the airspeed build back up again. No problems with that whatsoever. You can see why this was so successful in combat. Okay, so next up we'll test her in a stall. So before we do that, we just want to gain a reasonable amount of altitude. I mean, she does recover quite quick, but better safe than sorry. We'll take it up, make sure we're above at least 4,000. Let's just give it a little bit more throttle just to get us up there. Beautiful day to be out playing with a plane. Oop, the nose dip then. There we go. Though we don't want to be over the island when we do the manoeuvre, the stalls. We do want to at least be close to it in case we need to be rescued. Just going to give it some beans because we have lost a lot of speed. Okay, we're up now, coming up on 5,000, so that should be enough. So the first stall we'll do is the throttle off. So we'll start pulling the climb up, make sure we're close enough to the island. In fact, we'll start left turn. Throttle all the way back. Straight away we're getting the stall warning. So we drop down to 80 knots, and there it is, left wing dips, starting to spin, but recovers very quickly. Back on the throttle. There you go, we've got that back just before we hit 3,000, so lost about 2,000 feet of altitude there. It's not bad at all, that. So we'll just reclimb up and then we'll do the throttle on stall. $4,700, 48. That's 5,000 feet. We'll just tighten up that turn a little bit. Make sure we're not heading out to sea. Okay, so max throttle. Lined up so we're not over the island. We get the water injection warning, so we're pushing the engine too hard. This will be the last one that we push it with. There's 100 knots. There's 80 knots. Stick full back, and there it finally goes. So we'll straight away come off the throttle. Yeah, lost a little bit more there, 2,500 feet, but recovered nicely. It does recover very well. Is properly modelled, as in you get the shaking and then it drops a wing. I think the real aircraft would have probably been a bit more inclined to spin. It almost feels a little bit too easy to recover, if I'm honest. But I'm not going to complain because that makes it fun, if I'm honest. Right, so what have we done? We've done rolls. We haven't done a full loop yet, have we? So we'll do a full loop. We've got runway wise. Okay, so we're pretty much over the taxiway, so we use that as our feature. Dip the nose. Bring that speed up. we go. Oh, we didn't have enough speed there. But we made it. We'll let this one come quite low. Really regain some speed. There we go. Lovely old job. No problems with that. See, even with not really going quick enough, we should have been going quicker when we did that. It still managed it relatively easily. Gave us a stall warning, but didn't cause as many problems. Right, so let's try a carrier landing. So this is a Miltech carrier, the World War II carrier, the USS Lexington. To land on it, you need an add-on. Basically, the catapults and the cables don't just work. You have to. It's a free download. You download an app that allows you to either take off from or land on the carrier. So we'll just get ourselves the right way. Ooh, sun glare there. See, it's quite a tight deck. Not much room to play with. But we'll be alright. So we'll just put a bit of distance between us and then we'll turn around, see how we get on. I've had mixed results landing on the carrier. Not down to the sim, fully down to my skill level, or lack thereof. Once we've done that, we'll then reset it and see if we can blow this engine up for you. Okay, that should about do. Let's bring ourselves back round. Just watch the speed there, 180. And 60. Okay, so we'll get canopy open. We will drop the gear. We will drop the hook. I've already lost the carrier. That nose, there we go. And we'll bring in a little bit of flaps. Flaps won't engage until we're at the proper speed. Gear is showing us down, hook is showing us deployed. Stall just under 100 knots. We need to be doing more than that as we hit the deck. Straighten her up. Oof. Well, there you go. That's hit the first wire and stopped us straight away, and it's a good job too, because if not, that would have been a spectacular mess. But as you can see, there ain't much in the way of space to go, so if you do miss the wire, you've got a very, very narrow run. Otherwise you ain't going to make it. So that is your carrier landing, and to be fair, we're only just outside of the yellow lines. Unfortunately, we did stall the engine because I pulled the mixture back, so we're going to have to restart, pop the parking brake on before we can taxi ourselves out the way. So fuel pump on. That's cool. Fuel pump off. Don't know that has actually. Let's get the wings up. There we go. That's cool that time. So just make sure tail wheel is unlocked. And then, well, we've got a space in between those two. Yeah, I think we can fit it down there, can't we? Turn that noisy fuel pump off now. Obviously we would have the benefit of ground crew guiding us in reality. Alright, that'll do us there. So parking brake applied, cut the mixture, cut the fuel, magneto's off. Just before I turn the battery off, this sheet here is where you control what weapons you have displayed on the loadout page. You literally just tick what you fancy. And you've also got a nice map page on there as well, which is quite handy. You can zoom out and see the airfield there. Obviously there's not a lot on the Wake Island map. That's quite neatly stowed away in this tray here, which I do like. So there you go, that is us parked up, ready for deployment from the carrier. And then last thing we need to do, recover the starter, and flick the the instruments and the battery off. And then we can disembark and let the ground crew see what damage we've caused to her. So now all that remains for me to do is crash it. So I'm going to reset it, stick it up in the air, push the engine as hard as I can, and then I'll start recording again just before, well, hopefully just before it blows, so you can see what happens when it blows, and then we'll try an emergency landing. just for a bit of fun. So I've reset it. As you can see, I'm pushing the manifold pressure as much as I can. We're in a heavy climb. We'll make sure we don't stall, but we will rev the bollocks off the engine. We'll stay close to the island because the plan will be, once the engine blows, we'll do emergency landing with no engine. So we don't want to be too far away. You can do it on the water, but I'd rather do it on the grass next to the runway if I can. What will happen is you will get the water injection light will start to flash, which is to say you're pushing me too hard, the water's having to cool the engine too much, and then when it goes solid it means you're out of water, so you've got no more cooling, and then shortly after that you'll get a boom. There you go, it's already starting to flash. You'll get a big boom and the front of the canopy will cover in oil, and then obviously after that you'll have no engine. So we are at full throttle, but you can see the manifold pressure's coming down by itself. It ain't happy about how hard it's being pushed. What we at now? We're at 7,500 feet. Won't go any higher. So there it goes. We've now lost the engine. You can see the prop through the oil there. Got to use the instruments to try and keep a level now because I've got no reference. We'll get this canopy open. Won't give us much more, but it'll give us a little bit. Now, what are we at? We're at 7,000 feet. Need to plan this out now, so swing around. Right, there's the tip of the island. So there's the carrier. So we'll go 90 degrees to the island to begin with. Airspeed's at 160, which is good for now. Kill that altitude off. We'll obviously be declaring an emergency on the radio. Keep reference on that island, so important that we don't lose it. We either want to be landing on the island, very close to the island, or within rescue range of the carrier. Otherwise we're shark food. Okay, down to 6,000 feet. Speed's still 160, so speed's still good for now. Passing 5,000 feet. Start to bring her back in. 170 down to 160. 4,500 feet. You'd be absolutely shitting yourself if this happened, for real. I'm fairly nervous and I can just reset it. Okay, 4,000 feet, speed just below 160. So if we do a left turn in there, I think we're going to be coming in. No, we'll be about right. Just. So I'll start to stall between 100 and 80, well, between 80 and 100 knots rather. So we need to make sure that we don't stall before we get over that grass and we get low enough. Okay, 1,600 feet, 160 knots, so we're coming in hot. We are coming in very hot. Going to go left side of the runway. Let's try and slow ourselves down with some flaps, and we'll kick them up just before we land. .500 feet, 140 knots. Okay, get the flaps back up. 120 knots. Ease it in. Not too much flare, just a tiny bit. Let that speed creep off. Probably about 10 feet now, I think. There we go. Very little control on the rudder, just a little bit. And there we go. There you have it. I'll show you the damage from the outside as well. You can see, look at all that oil. So much of it. So much of it. Literally all of that absolutely covered in oil. Props bent back nicely and they're covered in oil as well. That's nice. It's nice how they've gone to that level, and I'm quite pleased with that emergency landing, to be fair. That could have gone much worse. It's probably better than my takeoff, if I'm brutally honest. So there you go. That's the Corsair put through its paces, and I like it. It's not quite up to the flying irons, but it's not that far off. It's a good representation and a lot of fun to fly.